Welcome guys. Today let's work on one of the most important concept in JavaScript. So why do we need callback, right? What was the need to introduce callback, and what is the difference between callback and then promises, and then the advanced version of promise, I would say async await, right? So we're going to cover it through a very simple example so that it becomes a little bit easier for you to understand. So let's just start making with one file. Let's just name it as promise async callback. So first of all, let's cover what was the need for callback. So since you're aware that JavaScript executes the code from top to bottom, all right. So let's say I'm here. I'm just going to console.log that I'm here, and then I'm just going to say I am now here. What it basically will do is it will read from line 1, execute it, move to next line, execute it, and it is a single threaded. It is a synchronous programming language, a single threaded, so it cannot execute multiple statements. Okay, so let's say I have a function over here. Let's name it as let's say I just want to log into my Instagram, log into Insta. Let's just create a simple function, right? And it is returning me a string. Okay, let's just return it a simple string. So I am logged in. Right? Now guys, if I have to call this function, right, I would just call it like this, log into Insta, and my function call. So it will execute. There is no problem in that. I can also catch the value. Let val is equal to login to Insta. So if I'm going to now print this on console, let me just include this file, save it, and let's just refresh the console, inspect it, and you would see I am here, I am now here. And did we not print the value? Yeah, so we did not print the value. So console.log, I have to print val as well, right? And so it will execute in a linear manner. It's going to execute I'm here, I'm logged in, and at the end I'm now here. All right, so far so good. You cannot just have complete synchronous code, right, when you're designing a website, right? For example, I'm doing some DB operation, I'm reading data from database, so that will take me, let's say, around a minute, right? To if there are, let's say, lakhs of records that needs to be fetched, and it needs to be put into an Excel sheet in form of a report, right? That's going to take maybe, let's say, 10 seconds. So I cannot halt the entire execution of the program, right, and wait for the data to come back from DB, and then it should move to execute the next lines of code, right? So that's actually a bad programming practice, right? So in order to avoid such issues, we introduce something which is asynchronous code in JavaScript, right? So what is asynchronous JavaScript, right? So let's use one function. Let's just make this login to Insta asynchronous. So what I'm going to do is, now rather than returning the value, I'm going to use a function set timeout. So what, if you don't know guys, set timeout basically whatever statement you have inside this method, inside this function, right, it will be executed after that particular time. So if I have set my timeout, I am setting the timeout that this should be returned after 1 second, which is 1000 milliseconds. Okay, so that is what set timeout do at a overview level. But if you want to find out details, I have also made a separate video on important methods in JavaScript, or some common methods in JavaScript in relation to Cypress. Okay, so now let's just do one thing. Let's execute it and let's see what happens. Okay, so here I have undefined over here. What does that mean? That I do not have the value, right? So it has executed, and since this function would obviously be executed, this statement would be returned obviously after 1 second. But JavaScript won't stop for this code. It will continue its execution, right? It's a synchronous language. So by the time it comes to this line, it doesn't have a value. So where it has a value, it has a value after 1 second. So to avoid this issue, right, we have to wait for the function to come back. So we do introduce callbacks. What does callback would do is this: I will make this function accept a callback function, right? So basically this function will not return me a string now, it will in fact return me a function, right? And what I'm going to do is, instead of return, I would write a function, and this statement would go inside this function, right? So what basically would happen now? Now login to Insta accepts one parameter, right? This is my function, and whatever value it returns, right? So it returns I am logged in. I'm going to catch that message, and over here, if I print console.log val, right? Let's just see the console first. So I am here undefined. I am here undefined. Why it is undefined? Okay, sorry. So it has to be message. Okay, so because we are catching a message, so it has to be message. So let's just, yeah, so I'm logged in. After 1 second, I have the value now. So this is how you can wait for a value, right? You use callbacks, right? So that the value that you have caught it from an asynchronous execution of JavaScript methods, right? I'm handling it in a really nicer way. So this was the reason, guys, that callback were introduced, right? But then we also ran into issues which is commonly known as callback hells. So why it happened? Let me just show you a practical example. Let's say I have a function, I have logged into Insta, but after I log into Insta, I upload my pic. Right? It also accepts a callback, and this can be anything, guys. You can name it as fn, means any function, right? Callback is not a keyword in Java. You can name it anything, and you can say I have uploaded my profile pic. All right, let's create another function as well. After uploading the profile pic, I am going to upload my status. Upload status. So that status, okay, let it be. I have uploaded my status, right? So that's it. So now I have three functions. So guys, it's very basic, right? I can upload a pic only after I'm logged into Insta. So right over here, I am logged into over here. I'm logged into Insta. Right, I have the return statement from the login method, which means if I have to upload a pic, I have to do inside this code, because nowhere else I have the value that I'm actually logged in or not. If I'm going to call that function upload pic over here, it's going to fail, right? Because I'm dependent on login to Insta. So I'm just going to call over here upload pic, right? So there's a small spelling mistake, guys, just ignore it. Now again, that's a callback that we are going to pass in, and that method is returning me again a message, right? So which says it's my DP, and I'm just going to say console.log my DP. All right, so if I run it now, it should also give me I have uploaded my profile pic. All right, guys, so far so good. Now only after I have uploaded my profile pic, I cannot parallelly upload status as well, so I have to wait for the profile pic to upload. So which is over here, right? Over here, I actually my profile pic got uploaded, so only after that I can upload my status. I can perform next set of actions on my Insta, right? And I'm going to say that over here I'm uploading a status, I'm giving a method call, and that would return me something, and that value I would catch over here. So let's say it's status, and over here I can say, since I have called that function, so which means that I have uploaded my status. All right, I have uploaded my status. So this also, guys, again it will, I'm logged in, I have uploaded profile pic, I have uploaded my status. So that's it. So after 1 second, it keeps on doing these operations. Now if you notice one thing, guys, so let's say after uploading status I want to do something else. What do you, so what would I be ending in, right? I'll be ending in something like this. Only after uploading status I can upload let's say another profile pic, and after that I can upload another thing. Let's say I want to create a reel in my Insta. So as if you continue like this, right, it will be a triangular tree, right, which is nowhere ending, and at the end your readability is compromised, right? It's not a nice way to write your code, right? So this is what is defined as callback hell. So you inner, there's a function, then you have a function, then you have a function, then you have a function. So it keeps on increasing, and it becomes a messy tree, right? So how do we avoid such situation? So then JavaScript guys thought, like, this is not a good programming practice, obviously. So let's just do one thing. So they thought, like, we will introduce promises, right? So for the sake of the explanation, guys, I am going to actually write return new promise. But otherwise, let's say the API is in JavaScript, let's say fetch, for example, it actually returns it. It returns inbuilt promises. You really need not write it. So I am going to just delete this callback. It is not accepting any callback. Rather, this function is returning me a promise. So guys, if you do not have idea of promises, you can watch the tutorial on promise over here as well. Over there as well, I have just taken some simple example to explain these promises. Right. So promise basically accepts. Promise actually uses a callback. If you logically look into its implementation, right? So it has two parameters, resolve and reject. So basically these two parameters are basically the methods, right? So if it is successful, it will resolve. If it is not, it will then reject. And if there is an error, we can also catch it, right? So yeah, talking of error, guys. So let's say I had a callback over here, right? And what if my function failed due to any reason, right? The data did not come up properly from the DB. So in order to handle the failures, right, I had to pass like on success or on failure. So these were the two things that I had to pass, that on success, then I have to write logic. If successful, do this. If failure, do this. Right, which you avoid a lot of this boilerplate code using promises, because promises has an inbuilt catch mechanism. Right. So if it doesn't resolve, it obviously gets rejected. And if nothing happens, if there is an error, it goes into catch block and catches it. So for that, you just watch the promise video. Right. Now over here, this won't be a callback, right? Rather, it will be a return statement that I am logged in. Alright, guys. So this is sorry, not return statement, a resolution. So it's resolved. So it will return a resolve method rather than a callback method. So ideally, it is similar to callback, right? But it will make code look much easier. So we will cover now. So similarly, I'm going to change other methods also. I don't need a callback, delete it. And over here, okay, let me just write it, return new promise. So promise itself resolves or rejects, right? And then my fat arrow method, and this statement goes inside that promise block. And over here, yeah, it should resolve to, okay, what happened? Okay, so I didn't get really copied. I had only the previous statement. So let's just cut it and paste it. Yeah. So over here, instead of my callback function, I have my resolve method. So instead of callback method, I have resolve method, and I'm just resolving for now, just for the sake of explanation. And similarly for my status as well, it will return a promise only, and I don't need a callback, delete it. I have uploaded my status as well. All right. So guys, now you see how the code becomes easier to read and much more manageable. So now I'm just going to call the method first, log into Insta, right? So now since it has logged into Insta, so it will wait for the promise to resolve. So then promise has something which is then, right? Now then you catch what is the status. So let's say this is my login status, right? And your arrow. So since it is a single statement, you really need not use curly braces. You can write in a single line. And let's say let's print it first, console.log login. So what do you think, what will be printed over here in the console? Obviously, what is returned from login to Insta? So what is login to Insta returning? It's returning a resolved version of my promise which says I am logged in. Okay, let's just execute this line of code first. I am logged in. That's great. Okay, now I have further, if you would see, right, if I remove this console.login, so now I know that what is my end state is to upload status, right? So after I log in, right, then I would just call upload pic. I call this method, and this in return is giving me another promise. So which means dot then, and what actually this method is returning upload pic, that my profile pic has been uploaded successfully. So I'm going to catch it. That's my upload status, right? Better method. And if for the sake of explanation, let me log this as well. So that's my upload status. And over here, since we are not printing login anymore, right, it's going to print upload status. I'm now here. I have uploaded my profile pic. That's great. Now in here, I would straight away call my next function, upload status as well for me. That's my function call. So which means now this entire statement is returning me another promise, which I'm going to catch it again, and I'm going to say, okay, that's my probably the last step, and that is my status. And fat arrow syntax, and over here I'm just going to console.log my status. And if you refresh it, upload status is not a function. What happened? Did we do anything wrong, guys? Let me just see it again. Okay, yeah, so I think, yeah, okay. So that's, I cannot just, keep the same name over here. Oh, yeah. So it was actually upload status. So let's just name it to one. Right, I think we cannot have same name of a variable as a function. Yeah, so I have uploaded my status. Right, so over here, guys, it was a typo mistake. It was same name, so the compiler got confused. So this is how you handle using promises, and the code is also a bit nicer. So over here, guys, if you are using single lines of code, right, you really don't need these things as well. Right, you can further reduce your code, right, using the fat arrow syntax. Right, so even this is fine. So now I'm now here, and after 3 seconds, I've uploaded my status. So guys, since see how much it has reduced to, right, from such a hell of code which is callback hell, it has just come down to 3 lines, and it's easier to read as well, right? So it's like a common English language. So log into Insta, then you do call this method, then you call this method, and finally you call your end goal, right? So that is how you chain promises. Now what is async await? So for that, guys, async await, you have to have a function now. So I'm going to keep it. So async await is nothing, it's just like a syntactical sugar, and the format is same. It actually in backend, it actually resolves promises, resolves or reject promises only. So for that, if you have to use that, you have to use async keyword, you can call it, and a function, async function, let's name it as complete insta test, let's name it like that, right? And over here, what you need to do is, you can easily catch the value. So what you can do is, let my login status equal to, just call the method login to insta, right? But before this, you have to use await keyword, right? That's it. So basically what it means is, this is my async function, right? And in combination with await, right? Async is again asynchronous, right? That's just like how JavaScript identifies. And inside this, I am reporting my login status, right? And it has to await until it gets a response. All right, so let's just see console.log login status. Okay, let me just, all right, let's just refresh. So I have promises code as well, so I should have commented that. Am I just reporting that? Let me just comment it. Control DC. All right. Okay. Oh, sorry guys. So we haven't called that method. We have to also call the method. So since you have created the method, you have to also call it. Okay. So this is where I am calling my method. Yeah, I am logged in. So let's say I want to print the console, and what is my second step? My second step is upload pic. So you can just say pic status is equal to upload pic, and remember to use await keyword, because we have to await for the asynchronous call to come. And similarly, let me just do away with the third promise as well, so which says upload status. So login status, so then we had upload status or upload reel, and then this would be upload status. guys, over here, right, the readability is further improvised, right? And I can just console.log log, and let me just use my backtick. I am logged in, right? Dollar, you can just catch it, login status, right? Also, I have uploaded, so you can just catch the pic status. So I have uploaded my pic status, and then just print out I have uploaded my reel or uploaded my status as well. So over here, guys, it becomes much more nicer way of handling things. Now, what happened? Uncaught and I cannot access upload status. What did we do? Okay, sorry about that. Again, the same mistake. I hope so. That's the mistake. But let's see. Yeah. So over here, I am logged in, which again prints the return statement. Also, I have uploaded. I have uploaded file pic and I have uploaded my status as well. So this is how, guys, async await is, right? So only syntax difference is there, and then you can see, like, you can easily write a line by line code, and it has improved the readability. Because even in promises, right, if you keep on writing dot, then you have to chain a lot of stuff, and then we have gotten rid of these things also. And I think async await is something which is much more useful, right? In comparison to promises, and promises are much more better in comparison to callbacks, right? So that was the need for callbacks, guys. Then we had promises, and then JavaScript, guys, improvised it further using async await. Okay, so that was a really a simple example. Okay, do comment on, guys, if you really want to understand, if you like the video, and please do subscribe. Thank you. Catch you in the next video, and we'll learn another new concept.